We got the first practice of the week. Let's see how it went. Yo, what is up to YouTube? We're going to be getting into a little bit of the details on what happened in practice today. Starting off with the defense outperformed crazy compared to the offense today. Defense showed out. The corners did amazing in coverage. Big name that came out, I do feel like in practice today, was Jack Jones. He had some nice plays on the defensive ball. To start off with the first play of the game. First play of practice today, where Jack Jones is one-on-one with Waddle. Nearly picked off by Jack Jones. He just went route for route with Waddle, step for step. Just got right under Tua's throw, where he ended up making a pass breakup. Another play where he was just there again. Tua with a catch, rock throw completion to Waddle. But this is just Waddle and Jack Jones going at it like crazy. I think he was following him around today more than anybody else. Matthew Judon had a nice little sack today. I think he had 3 sacks today. I think that's what the total ended up being. Chop had a nice day. Ollie Gordon got some reps with the ones today, which is a very good sign for him. I do believe he should get a bigger opportunity more than Jalen Wright, who has been completely awful throughout the preseason training camp sessions. Ollie Gordon's just been outperforming him throughout the entire season, off-season going. He had a nice little 4 to 5 yard run downfield, where Jordan Brooks ended up chasing him down. Nice little fit-up tackle, but Ollie Gordon was looking for that contact and ran right at him. Tua, I would say, had probably one of his worser days. Not as bad as like what he did in the Chicago camp, but he wasn't really connecting as well because the corners were playing so well today. Jason Marshall had a nice little play. Jack Jones was playing great. Storm Duck has been fantastic throughout the entire offseason. I haven't heard much about Mike Hilton, so I don't even know if he practiced today. But the standouts, I would say, for corner were Jason Marshall, Jack Jones, and of course, Storm Duck. But Jason Marshall was also between Jack Jones and Jason Marshall. They were the two guarding Waddle throughout the entire practice today. This is one of the plays. Jason Marshall was in a phase on a Tua shot to Waddle in the end zone, but Jason Marshall got there last second and punched the ball right out through Waddle's hands. Bradley Chubb had a nice little practice today. Was really, really good in one thing in particular, where he was fitting up in the run game, which is something that need to get a little bit better at. He needed to get better at in his game from 2023 because he didn't play at all last year. But I feel like our defensive line, now we even have Matthew Judon. We have that four edge rushers who can cycle through and all be starters on multiple rosters. Jalen Phillips, I didn't hear much about him today, but I did see a lot about Bradley Chubb, Chop Robinson, and I did see a few reports about Matthew Judon running a little bit with the twos. He's not running with the starters yet, which is it makes a lot of sense at the same time. I think one of the last plays of the day was an interception that Tua threw, but it was more of a fantastic play by Jack Jones, where Jack Jones popped the ball up in the end zone, and Westbrook-Akine literally had it in his hands. Jack Jones comes up, pops it up in the air, and Storm Duck comes in and gets the interception to end the day. But what do I get from all this? I do feel like our defense has shown a lot of people the doubts that they have in this corner room. Our secondary is a lot less concerning now that I feel like they were 3 weeks ago. Jack Jones has been stepping up throughout practice. Storm Duck has always been that guy, I feel like, since last year when he stepped into that role for Kendall Fuller. I do want to see a little bit more of Mike Hilton. I haven't heard much about him in camp, which is a little more concerning. I know he's stepping into a big role where Kader Kohu was, but Mike Hilton's always been that guy. I've always liked him when he was in Cincy. I liked him when he was in Pittsburgh, but he is our guy who I feel like needs to step up in our secondary more than anybody else, because the nickel is one of the most important corner positions. What else? Our linebackers have always been fantastic. I can never say a bad thing about them. Terrell Dotson, I haven't heard much about him, but I know he's been good. I know Willie Gay's been that guy throughout practice, and Jordan Brooks has always been that guy on defense for us. I've always liked him. I was a huge fan of him when he was in Seattle. So I have no negatives on that. The defensive line, I have zero negatives on. I think our defensive line is probably a top 5 unit in the league. With Zach Sealer, Kenneth Grant, Zeke Biggers is making a good name for himself. Jordan Phillips, I feel like, is going to be huge for us this year. He's been awesome in the run game. He's been awesome in the pass game. There's not much I can say bad about him. Chop Robinson is just, I was high on him coming out of college. I thought his numbers were very, very low coming out of college with the sack numbers, but he was very, very good when he was there. He got past a lot, most of his tackles and pass coverage very, very fast. It just was he wasn't getting to the quarterback. He got the pressures, but he just wasn't getting to the quarterback. But I think he figured that out a lot last year at the end of the year, where he led the league in like pressures. I think he had 6.5 sacks. He was just all around balling out. I hope Jalen Phillips can come back to that where he was in 2023 before his ACL, where he was just an absolute beast between him and Bradley Chubb coming off the edge. No one could stop them. I do feel like this defense is very, very similar to what we had in 2023. Or we didn't have much at corner except for Jalen Ramsey. I do feel like our Jalen Ramsey this year, I guess, would be Mike Hilton or our technically Minka, because I feel like we didn't have good safeties that year, but we have now a great safety as a Minka. And Ashton Davis, I feel like, is going to be huge for us, and same with Melifonwu, who I do feel like is going to be used more in a 3 safety look where we send one of our safeties, whether that's Minka or Melifonwu, because those two are great when it comes to run game, blitzes, packages. Like they live on that shit. Our offense, I think they need to step up. Then again, today we did not have Devon A-Chain, did not have a Waddle. We did have Darren Waller finally practicing, which is a very, very good sign for us because we traded for him and he hasn't practiced yet with our team, but today he did. I don't think he did that much with 11 on 11 and 7 on 7, but he did some drills where he was there and he was practicing more than he has yet. He's learning that playbook. It takes a little bit for people to learn that playbook. The playbook is very, very difficult, and people got to learn that. Mike McDaniel runs those weird plays where you need emotion, you need to get set, you need to do all this different stuff, you need to learn your blocking package, you need to learn all that. But I do think he's going to be a big piece for us this year, hopefully, and I think now that we signed Matthew Judon, I wonder if the Dolphins will trade, whether that's Jalen Phillips or Bradley Chubb, for a star corner. I've heard a lot of reports that we are going to trade Jalen Phillips for one of those star corners in the NFC. Do I know who that corner is? No. Do I have some feelings on who it could be? Maybe like a Jalen Johnson from the Chicago Bears. Byron Murphy from the Vikings, which I don't think is very, very likely because he just signed a new contract with them. So it's very, very difficult to even look at that. But I know Jalen Phillips and Brian Flores had that very strong connection once he came out of college. So maybe that's why he would go there. But I would say no. But am I confident in this team? Yes, I do feel like they are looking what they look like in 2023, just with a more electric defense. That's what held them back in 2023 was they had a very piss poor defense. And they weren't just they scored points, but they also allowed a lot of points. They allowed a lot of rushing yards. They allowed a lot of passing yards. But this year, I feel like we're going to get a lot to the quarterback. We're going to get that good run game going. It's just going to be there for us, hopefully. I have heard some reports that Brian Robinson Jr. has been getting looked at by the Miami Dolphins, whether that's a trade or if he gets released and we just sign him, because apparently Devon A-Chain is dealing with some calf injury, which can lead to, a lot of the time, can lead to an Achilles injury, whether that's Achilles tear or just like an Achilles rupture, something like that. We do not want with one of our best players, if not our best player. Tyreek Hill, I do believe, will not practice until the regular season. Same with Devon A-Chain. They're going to sit out, give them the rest what they need, because an oblique injury you don't want to mess with either. Oblique injuries are very, very scary at sometimes. They can turn into something you don't want. Devon A-Chain, he can take his rest as long as he needs. I want him fully healthy. I want him to ball out like he can. Tyreek Hill, I want to see him do something or get him out of our locker room, because he's just ruining everything if we are just keeping him on the bench and he's not doing much. I do feel like Waddle's going to take that big step this year where he's going to take a lot of wide receiver one reps. Nick Westbrook-Ikune is going to be huge for us in the red zone. Ollie Gordon, I think he's going to take that running back 2 spot before week 1, which would be huge because we need that power running back who can get in the end zone on short yardage. Is what we struggled with for last year, the year before that. A lot of the years with Mike McDaniel, we have not done well in the short yardage plays, whether that was Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson, all that. We were one of the worst teams in that short yardage last year and the year before. Now that I say that, I do believe, I think I join practice with the Jags is either tomorrow or Friday, with the game being on Saturday, I think. Hold on, let me just double check that. Yeah, no, so the game is on Saturday, so I do believe the joint practice would start either tomorrow or there won't be a joint practice, which I believe there's going to be a joint practice tomorrow. We're going to look at probably playing a few starters, whether that's, I think Waddle will probably play a quarter, Tua will probably play a quarter, maybe a few drives here and there in the second. But I do believe Quinn Ewers is going to take that QB spot from Zach Wilson. Though Zach Wilson he did a lot better last week. I feel like it's just Quinn Ewers was automatic last week. He had 2 touchdowns, both to Theo Wise Jr., who will make that 53-man roster, I believe. D.S. Scridge will make that 53-man roster, whether that's on special teams or he'll be that 5th wide receiver. I do think Taj Washington will be fighting for that 6th through 5th wide receiver spot. Throughout this entire training camp and the rest of the preseason. I think that's all I got to cover today. I think we went through a lot, and I think if there's any reports about this Asante Samuel thing that I did see yesterday, which ended up being that he was not at the facility, but there have been contacts with them since May of this offseason. I mean, he still hasn't been cleared yet from his neck surgery, which is a huge thing. Like, you cannot sign another injury-prone corner. You cannot sign another injury-prone player to begin with. I would like to see if we could sign him, if not Rasul Douglas. Stephon Gilmore, I'm a little more scarce on. I would like him as a 3rd option, just because he is on that age break where he's getting old, and he's not going to play as well as you need him to be for how weak that secondary is. I do believe we have not as bad of a secondary as people say we do, just because of how they performed today. I know they didn't play against Tyreek Hill or Devon A-Chain. They didn't play against actually, they did play against Waddle, and they locked him up pretty good today. So we'll see how it is, but I do believe the Dolphins took a huge step in their secondary today with their corners, and hopefully can keep moving towards that direction the rest of this offseason. That's all I got today, folks. Make sure you like and subscribe. Go check out my TikTok. Go check out my Twitter. Go check out my Twitch, which will be in the links in the description. I probably will be in streaming either tonight or tomorrow. Just go check it out. And yeah, that's all I got. Thanks for watching.